Hello everyone. This episode was so good that I don't even have a funny intro. I just want to discuss it. Wait, maybe I do have a funny intro because didn't I tell you that there were going to be tunnels connecting those bunkers? I am so happy for that. Anyway, let's discuss the episode. Hello, if you don't know me, my name is Joe and I discuss TV shows and movies online, often giving you my very delusional theories. Today we're going to have very sane theories. You're not going to recognize me. You're not going to recognize me. So we're going to discuss number one, who is Solo, because I think I know, and I need to start watching more theory videos on YouTube because I'm pretty sure everyone has figured this out by now because I think it's kind of obvious after this episode. So we're going to discuss who is Solo and what's happening to Juliette because I also think that's pretty obvious. And then we're going to discuss Bernard and his possible descent into madness and loss of control from the silo. Then we're going to discuss the whole business between Bernard, Meadows, Quinn, and Luke. And of course, we're going to talk about the actual descent, because that was interesting. Not really in a development of plot kind of way, but in a very I see you kind of way. So let's get into it. First of all, who is Solo? In this episode, we hear Solo and Juliette discussing a lot again, which thank God, because nothing else happens in Silo 17. And we hear Solo saying that he gets energy from the outside, and he doesn't really explain where he gets the energy from. And we can either assume it's because he doesn't know what to explain, or because he doesn't really know where it comes from. Maybe it comes from like solar or wind power, but it could actually come from, the secret headquarters that I've been talking about for ages that definitely has to exist. There has to be someone who has an overarching power over all the silos, and those are the people who are providing the energy to the bunkers inside the silos. I think that's a reasonable conclusion to arrive at, because today I am very reasonable. We also find out that the water in Silo 17 is rising and that the mechanical part of Silo 17 was flooded on purpose to mess with mechanical when they were trying to revolt, right? I think that's what he said. And I wanted to rewatch the first episode because I wanted to clarify something about Russell. And it seems like, I didn't notice this before, but it seems like they didn't have much of an option between staying or going outside. The kind of vibe that you get is that either they stay and die or they go outside and die, so they went outside anyway to find out. And I'm thinking, is this because of the water rising? Were they like expecting that they wouldn't be able to fix it and that they would eventually die anyway because they wouldn't have been able to fit everyone and to feed everyone? And that's why they went outside. Well, not why, but one of the reasons that motivated them to go outside. Potentially. But yeah, during the entire episode, basically Juliette is trying to find a helmet to fit her suit so she can go outside. And she just investigates in the silo and finds out that someone from IT stole a helmet, and she's trying to find out who stole it. So she goes to different people's apartments, and in her search for the helmet, which she finds at the end, by the way, spoiler alert, in her search for the silo, she finds out that Solo is not Solo, the person that Solo says she was, because Solo isn't his real name, so he tells Juliette that he's Cole Myers. Is he Cole Myers? No, he's not. And Juliette finds this because she finds a directory list of the names of people from IT, and the person that says Cole Myers is a person with a different face. And then on that list is also a person called Trina Samuels, Tiny, and then she goes to her apartment and she finds a photo with Solo and Tiny, and it literally says Solo and Tiny because apparently they were dating. And Solo in the photo is a different face from the Solo we know. So we find out that Solo is not Solo. Solo is not Cole Myers. So who the hell is the man behind the door? Well, what does Solo tell Juliette that how he got his name? He tells her that he went to an event, and when he got there, he didn't bring anyone. He went alone. So he says that he went solo, and Russell's kid at the event mistook this for his name. So supposedly, when Solo went to this event and told Russell's kid, "Oh, I came solo," or "I'm solo because I came solo," Russell's kid mistook this for his name and started calling him Solo. However, we know this is not true because he is not Solo. So who is he? Isn't it plausible that Solo is the actual kid, Russell's kid, who was at the event, who mistook Cole Myers for Solo and started calling him Solo? Right? That's why he's in the bunker. That's why he was told not to open the door to anyone, because he's Russell's kid. He's the child of the person who was responsible for the bunker. So he knew to put him there, and he knew to tell him not to open the door. It's gotta be it. Otherwise, how would he have ended up in the bunker if he wasn't the IT shadow? If he wasn't Russell's shadow? Right? This is my theory. And we know from the previous episode that Solo was in the class with the 12-year-olds. But he would have been way too young to be the IT shadow if he was in the class with the 12-year-olds. So there's two options. One, he was lying and he wasn't the IT shadow, and actually he was Russell's kid, and that's why he was in the bunker. And he just lied about his age. I mean, we can't know how old he is. Maybe he just aged a lot because of the stress. Option 2 is something that I actually think I heard from someone else's video. If I find out who it was, I'm going to link it here. But there is a possibility that Solo has some form of developmental deficit. Like he has some developmental issue that made him be in the class with the 12-year-olds even though he was older. And maybe exceptions were made for him because he was the son of the head of IT, or of the mayor, or something like that. Because we also learned from this episode that, which is a very little detail, but I don't think they would include anything in the show that wouldn't be important for the overall story. And in this episode, while Solo and Juliette are talking about Solo's name and names and whatever, Solo makes a mention to the play Romeo and Juliet, and we learn that in Silo 17 they know that Romeo and Juliet die at the end, and in Silo 18 they don't know that. So, right? Maybe Juliet didn't read the play, but I feel like she would know. I feel like that's that's a pretty big detail of the play she was named after. I feel like she would know if they told people in Silo 18 that Juliet and Romeo die at the end. I feel like she would know. But if she doesn't know because they don't tell them, we can assume that in Silo 17 there's a lot more freedom. There used to be a lot more freedom and more open-mindedness, kind of. And in Silo 18, a lot more censorship. So isn't it possible that if Silo 17 was more open-minded, they would be open to the idea of a kid with developmental issues and protect him and educate him and treat him like, as a freaking human being, as they should? I think that's possible. And if he was the daughter, if he was the son of a powerful person in the silo, he would have even a higher chance of being treated well. So I think this is who it is. I think that Solo is Russell's son, and that's why he's in the bunker. And then I went back and I rewatched episode 1, the beginning part, and I don't think Russell survived, because I was thinking, okay, if this is Russell's son, maybe Russell is the third person in Silo 17. Maybe Russell actually survived and he's an old man right now and he's just trying to look after his kid. But then I went and I rewatched episode 1, the beginning, and I don't know that that's Russell, because it's kind of implied that Russell didn't survive the rebellion. It's kind of implied that the guy that was heading the rebellion accidentally killed Russell. So I don't know that that's Russell. I think it would be a nice conclusion to the third person in the silo, because it would explain why they aren't making contact. If you are the father of a a son with developmental issues and you finally see the son making a friend, you're not going to interrupt. You're going to try to support it, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe. But whoever the third person in Silo 17 is, they don't seem to be an antagonist, or at least they are smart enough to understand that they won't get through the door by force, that they have to reach through to Solo. And I mean, Juliette is the only person who is being able to do that. So maybe the third person in Silo 17 is just being careful and calculated and trying to get to Solo through Juliette. We'll have to see. But to me, it was really interesting the way that Solo reacted to Juliette confronting him about his identity, because does he know? I mean, he has to know who he is, but does he consciously admit it to himself? Because it feels like something happened, and it has to do with what happened to his eye. Something happened that made him kind of break a little bit and become a little woo-woo and become a little like disconnected from reality. And maybe that's the way he like coped with all of these years in solitude, by assuming someone else's like personality. I don't know. It's a little far-fetched, but his reaction was extreme. I still don't think that Solo is an antagonist. I think he's just an incredibly broken, traumatized person who is trying their best to help Juliette, but still keep to their mission. I think that's like the whole Solo thing. And at the end, when Juliette finally finds the helmet, she collapses because she has a wound and probably is infected and is making her sick. I mean, she can't reach medicine. There's no medicine in that abandoned silo. I'm pretty sure she would need like penicillin, right? To combat the infection. But then she collapses before she's able to get outside, get to silo 18 and get some medicine. What I think is going to happen, because Solo appeared very threatening, but it was just because he was being confronted with his lies. And I mean, it's not even such a harmful lie. I'm sure it has something to do with the rebellion and the reason why Silo 17 went into disgrace and is now abandoned. I'm sure there's a secret there. But so far, Solo seems pretty helpful. And I think that he's going to find her there, passed out with a helmet. He's going to carry her to the bunker. And episode 6 is going to literally open with Juliette inside the bunker, finally, which she deserves. And I think he's going to nurse her back to health. And then when she's healthy, she has the suit, she has the helmet. I think she's going to go outside and return to Silo 18. And that's going to be like close to the end of the season. Yeah. And those are my theories right now for who Solo is, what's going to happen to Juliette, and who the third person in Silo 17 is. Now, for Bernard. Well, before talking about Bernard, I want to just establish what happened in Silo 18, because everything is like a big web of of politics and dynamics and just people screwing each other and then helping each other. It was a really fun episode, this one. I was very positively surprised by Camille. Who is this mysterious figure with so much influence and that inspires fear in people? Let's talk about it. Okay, so we start the episode with them literally running down the stairs. And to me, it was just... I love that, because with this descent down the silo, we see these 4 people from Mechanical trying to escape the people trying to get to them. And we see one supposed friend betraying them. And we see one supposed enemy helping them. And I just loved it, because we get to so clearly see how easily people who are afraid, who are confused, who don't know what's really happening, but they know something is wrong, how easily all of those people turn to the most, like the easiest to blame target. Like they turn to the most immediate target they see in front of them. And this is how people are literally acting like today in real life. You see it all the time. People are scared of the unknown. They are scared of the future. They are scared of the instability of our time. And whenever an important leader, whenever someone who speaks really loudly and with really, like impactful words and sentences and gestures, we see how easily people turn against each other, and they turn to the easiest to target population. I mean, we see it happening all around the world. Everywhere the right wing is rising, and everywhere people are blaming the unknown. They are blaming the immigrants, they're blaming the LGBT community, they're blaming anything that like escapes their understanding and their knowledge and their traditional ways of thinking of the world. It's always the easiest target, is the thing that we don't understand, and the thing that the big leaders point to as being the target. And in Silo, episode 5, we see this so clearly. Like, the people know something is wrong. They know that things are not matching up, but what can they do? They can't turn to judicial. They would be killed. They will be sent to the mines. They can't turn against Bernard. They can't turn against the judge, the sheriff's office. Who do they have to turn to? Who do they have to turn against? The people that these people who are to blame are pointing the finger at. They know something is wrong. They are angry, and they need to take the anger out on someone. So they're going to run after the only people they can target. The scapegoats. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but I really love that aspect of the episode. I was in heaven watching that. And then we see that little shitty ass traitor, and they have to go on the run, and we see, again, chef's kiss, the sacrifice from the 2 older women, and then eventually from one of them who sacrifices herself for the other friend. And I mean, you don't see those kinds of sacrifices in the upper levels. I mean, we see it a little bit with Dr. Nichols when Bernard, as I assume, was trying to imply that he was going to invite him to be his shadow, right? That's what Bernard was doing with Dr. Nichols, Juliette's dad. He wanted to ask him to be his shadow, right? Did I misunderstood that? Because that's what I thought. And we see a little bit kind of sacrifice from him being like, yeah, no. Thank you, but no. And he says something that I loved. He said, you don't get to control what she means to the silo, and you don't get to control what she means to me. Love Dr. Nichols in this season. Love him. And also, he's Lord Friendzone from Game of Thrones, so love him for that as well. But yeah, we see it in Dr. Nichols, and we see a little bit of sacrifice in Sims, but I mean, it's not actual sacrifice. He was forced to take up the role of judge. But the fact that people from down below are willing to sacrifice themselves and be sent to the mines, because it's what's going to happen to this woman. She's going to be sent to the mines. And they're willing to do that for their friends because they know they are fighting for something that is true, that is of value to the people they love. And seeing that, like the difference between the willing sacrifices of the down below and the forced sacrifices of the upper levels, chef's kiss. Love it. But yeah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. And then after that, that woman gets caught. Walker finds her way down the stairs after the barricade is literally pushed down by the people who are trying to hunt Knox and Sherley. And Knox and Sherley eventually find themselves jumping through the air and being helped by the people down below. And just the fact that the guy from Judicial, after seeing Knox and Sherley jump to go down below, and he literally cut the cable, which they would die if they had not had gotten help from the people next to them. And after he cut the cable, he literally took out the metal thing and he threw it at them, hoping to at least take out one of them. And remember that Knox and Sherley went upstairs trying to negotiate. They were trying to negotiate with these people that just tried to take them out with a freaking metal thrown through the sky. Well, not the sky, but the air. And this is also the thing that got me reflecting about Silo and about why Knox would even consider going upstairs and talking to Judge Meadows. And it's the thing that they were talking about when they were in the janitorial closet, waiting to decide what to do. Knox and Sherley were saying, do we all think that? Does everyone in the silo think that they are the one keeping the silo running? Because we say that because we say that in mechanical to get people going. And clearly they say that in the janitorial squad to get people cleaning. And I mean, that's it, isn't it? These people that work and live in the silo are not brainwashed, but almost indoctrinated into believing that what they do is so absolutely fundamental to the silo that they have to keep doing it to keep the silo running. And I mean, that's how you keep these people in order, isn't it? You make them believe that the silo exists for a grand purpose, for this beautiful goal of getting society back outside, and you make them believe that the little tiny job that they have is so essential to the silo that they cannot stop working. They have to give their lives to that job. And then you make them believe that the people running the silo and telling them that they are so important to the silo running, they make them believe that these people have their best interests at heart. They make them believe in the system. They make them believe that the system works as they are taught it works. So of course, Knox thought, I can go to the judge. The judge has power. I can play by the rules because the rules that I have been told my whole life are true. And this is how the silo works. Of course he went upstairs because he hadn't at that point had enough experience with the corruption of the silo to understand that the rules that they are taught are only meant for the people, not for the leadership, not for the government, not for judicial, not for anyone who actually makes decisions. And I think that's just, I love this episode. I truly did, because it explained the decision that Knox made before, because I didn't understand it. He saw the names. He saw that they always blamed mechanical. He saw the corruption right there. But it wasn't enough, because the way that they are trained to think of the silo is so, entrenched in their minds that this is we forget, I forget as an audience member that they don't know about planet Earth. They don't know about the universe. They don't know about anything else. The way that we see, not just Earth, the way that we see the entire universe, this gigantic thing that so often gives us perspective on our own lives. How many times have you been down in life and thought, I'm just a dot in the universe, who cares? This thing that puts our life into perspective. They don't have that. Their entire universe is that tiny ass silo that contains 10,000 people, right? I mean, of course, it makes sense to me when I think about it like that Knox would make that decision, because even though he started seeing the corruption and he started seeing the signs, he still believed that he lived in a system with rules that applied to everyone the same. Or maybe not that clearly, but he still believed in the system to an extent. And in this episode, he admits to Sherley, yeah, you were right and I was wrong. The system is messed up. And I think that was, I'm sorry, I love this episode so much. I was watching it and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That happens to her, that happens to us as well in real life. I think this is one of the things I'm loving the most about Silo in this season, is how many correlates, how many, extrapolations I can make to our real world. The people who wrote this show, good job. Good, because because the decision that I was questioning last episode, I'm understanding right now in this episode. I don't know if y'all agree. Do y'all agree with what I'm saying, or do you think it was still a stupid decision from Knox? Let me know. I mean, by this I mean in the comments. Yeah, okay. But yeah, they get to safety, and well, that part of the story is wrapped up. What we can, the conclusions that we can draw from this is the fact that by making Sims the judge, he lost Sims. And by losing Sims, he lost Camille. Oh, Camille! Let's talk about Camille. Who the hell is Camille? So Camille, before, I don't remember where she's working now, but before she was working in judicial. And I think that's where she met Sims, and then she transferred somewhere else. I don't remember where she works. But people are loyal to her. People fear her. And we've seen so many scenes in Silo of Camille whispering in Sim's ear and influencing the way he makes decisions. This woman has to have a lot more power than we think. And do you know what I was thinking? When that guy was saying you should fear Camille, I was thinking, doesn't this look like the House of the Dragon when we had that little scene between Alicent and Rhaenys, and Alicent says, you know how the world works. We don't rule. Women can't rule, but we can whisper in their ears. We can whisper them away from violence and into peace. And this is what I was thinking when I was thinking of Camille. Because if Camille has Sim's ear, and Camille has an influence in the way he makes decisions, and he was like the guy from, he was the boss from judicial, and if people in the silo or the people who know fear her that much, she has to be an influential part of the silo that Bernard is not aware of. So what does she know is my question. Does she know as much as Judge Meadows knew? Is she fighting for something else we don't know about? Because to me it feels like she is the head, the boss of something. You know what I mean? Is there a secret movement we don't know about going on in the silo? Does she know about the tunnels? Yeah, let's discuss the tunnels. I'm discussing this all out of order, but let's discuss the tunnels. Because freaking Bernard go gets Luke. And also, by the way, because I had a feeling Luke was going to come back, and he came back one episode later, right? The next episode. And Bernard gets him to analyze the video, and he finds the damn tunnels. And we knew for sure about the tunnel down below where there's like water, because I think in the previous season we saw like Juliette kind of clocking it when she was inside the water, right? Am I wrong? Tell me, let me know. But we knew about that tunnel, and now there's two other tunnels, one in IT and one in judicial. The one in IT has to be inside the bunker. And what I think, guys, delusional theory oh my god, I have one delusional theory this episode. Hey. But remember what I said about the bunker, that I wanted it to have more than one level. That, well, at the time I said that it would be cool if the, like, a ring in the middle of the room would lower down to another level. But maybe it's not like that, but maybe there is another level to the bunker, and it is in judicial, because I think it's like IT and then judicial here, right? So wouldn't it be plausible that this bunker that we've seen from IT actually goes down to judicial, and then there are tunnels that go outside both IT and judicial where, well, the bunker is, and into the bunker in the other silos? Come on, it has to be that. There has to be a system of bunkers for them to be able to communicate with each other. I think that's what it is. Anyway, we also, oh my god, this is so exciting, guys. We get the other clue from the drive that Bernard gets Luke to analyze. And the clue we get is the message, the supposed love letter that, what was his name? Salvador Quinn, the letter that Salvador Quinn wrote to his wife with hidden code. Now, Salvador Quinn is mentioned in episode 4 by Meadows as she is, well, about to beat it. And she says that Salvador Quinn was the head of IT 140 years ago, and that he was the head of IT then. And he wrote this letter to his wife where, listen, I don't know how I found this, but I found a Reddit post. I don't know if maybe I'm like behind on my episodes, but I haven't seen episode 6 yet. But anyway, I saw a Reddit post about this letter, which apparently has been deciphered by someone, and it's Salvador Quinn telling his wife that they are lying, there are 50 silos, and blah blah blah. And it also mentions, what was it? It mentions a safeguard, that the founders didn't create the silos, but they created the safeguard. So what I'm thinking is, actually, I don't know if this is right, because I just saw a Reddit post on it, but if it is, there had to be something, like, because my leading theory about the silos is that the silos are like a social experiment, that the world really hasn't gone that much into chaos, and that there are people living like outside somewhere, and that they control the way that the air is poisonous and wherever. I also like the theory that they are on the moon, because there was someone, put it here, that mentioned that maybe they are on the moon or like on somewhere else outside of Earth, and that's why they can't go outside. But I don't know, I feel like because of what we heard from Solo in Salo 17 saying that the air wasn't poisonous at the beginning and then it was, I feel like this is being controlled by someone. And if there is someone outside controlling the poisonous air, it could be this safeguard, right? It could be like a group of people who is literally making sure the silos continue on as an experiment. Because what I'm thinking is that at some point, because either the silos started as a way to allow humankind to survive some sort of nuclear apocalypse, and then they weren't needed anymore, or the silos started as an experiment and then they weren't needed anymore. I think whatever the reason was to create the silos, at one point the reason wasn't a reason anymore. Like at one point people would have been safe walking outside and rebuilding society outside. But by then, the societies inside the silo had become so self-contained to function as a silo that they didn't want that. And maybe this is where the founders came in. Maybe humanity reached the point where they could have gone outside, but because society was structured to be lived inside the silos, the founders decided that they were going to completely erase this information and they were going to continue living in the silos, because maybe they decided that this is how humanity survives best. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to repeat the mistakes from the previous generation that nuked Earth or something. And they decided to stay in the silos. And maybe this is where the order came from. Maybe this is where the idea to not talk about the other silos came from. I think this is plausible. This could be the reason why there are different cultures in the silos. This could be the reason why there is such control and censorship in the silos. Because if the silos started as a way to save people, everyone could be aware of what's going on, because no one would want to go outside because they were sure it was poisonous. But if then at some point it became contorted into this idea that someday it will be safe, but we don't know when, it makes sense to control people as much as possible. It makes sense to block communication with the other silos. It makes sense to create all of these rules to control people, basically, to keep them inside, because honestly, for no other reason than someone thought that this was the better way of living. I feel like that's where this is going. But yeah, let me know what your delusional theories are. I don't think this is so delusional. I think this is very plausible, because if the founders didn't build the silos and they just determined the way of life inside the silos, like what possible reason could they have? Because I don't think the air is that poisonous. As I've said, I think someone is controlling how poisonous the air is. So what other reason could they have to keep people in asylums apart from like being sort of dictators and thinking this is the best way for people to live? I don't know. I'm curious though. I'm very curious. Like, this episode was like, I'm sorry that I'm talking so much about this. It was a really good episode. Okay, I think I just want to mention one little thing before we end this video, which is the culmination of everyone who is kind of leaving Bernard, because Bernard is losing control of the situation. He offed the only person who seemed to care a little bit about him, which was Meadows. He doesn't trust Sims anymore and demoted him, which Sims was the most loyal, dedicated person to Bernard. And in the beginning I was thinking maybe he doesn't want Sims to go into power because Sims will be a dictator, because he's very strict and malicious. I was going to say vicious and malicious, and then he went, well, he's vicious and malicious. And now he's lost him. And in the process he's lost Camille. And we just found out Camille is a something. He's a something in the silo, so he's lost that. And he tried to get Dr. Nichols to his side and failed, so he doesn't have that. He barely has a control over the new judicial guy because he isn't giving him any authority, any power, and that's not going to work out well for him. He's completely lost Mechanical after not only Knox and Sherley returned and are going to like rile the troops against him, the sheriff is down below and now he's getting all this information about the drug and the mission that Judicial gave to the bearded man to disrupt everything and throw the Molotov cocktail at the police. The sheriff is knowing about all of this and much more, and is completely disloyal to Bernard. So Bernard lost the police force and the people of Mechanical. He doesn't have much control over Judicial because, well, Sims is gone and he doesn't have a loyal person there for him. And he lost Sims. And the only person who's still kind of working for him is Luke. And he's there forced, because if he doesn't work, he goes back to the mines. So as soon as Juliette appears and is like, boo, I got you, he's gonna leave Bernard. Like, he's not loyal. So if we have to think of one single person that is still loyal to Bernard, Grigri? There's no one. Like, he's lost the people around him. Sims was his most loyal puppy. So I think this is the beginning of Bernard's descent into madness, which is just fitting. It's just fitting because it's the episode called The Descent, and it Descent, not The Descent. And even though it's about them, going down the stairs and going back into Mechanical, I mean, this is the beginning of Bernard's descent into madness. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And honestly, I cannot wait to see Bernard fall. Cannot wait. It's gonna be chef's kiss to see him fall. But then, who takes his place? Juliette's not gonna want it. Nichols doesn't want it. The only person who will want to take up Bernard's place is going to be Sims. And Sims doesn't want to go outside. Sims doesn't want to explore other silos. Sims wants to keep the order and control people in Silo 18. So you tell me how you think this is going to end. Well, let's talk about it. Predictions for next episode and season in general. From Silo 17, I think we will have to have a revelation of whoever is the third person in Silo 17. I'm betting Russell right now, but I don't know. Juliette is going to regain consciousness, she's going to be healed, and then she's going to get her helmet into her suit, and she's going to Silo 18. And, I mean, Bernard is kind of already imagining a silo without Juliette and trying to get over the whole idea that she's a hero and whatever, revealing the truth, whatever. But I don't think, I know I know when Juliette returns to Silo 18, because baby girl will return. I mean, if we get to the end of the season and she's still in Silo 17, I'm gonna be upset. So when Juliette returns to Silo 18, she's going to be sure to stand in front of that camera so people know she's there. And Bernard's not going to have any control over it because he's going to have to let her in. So that's, I think, what's going to happen from Silo 17. From Silo 18, the troops are going to rile in Mechanical, but I don't think they're going to incite a full-on rebellion, because Silo 17 clearly is not like other silos. I mean, Juliette going over the mountain, going into another silo, the Mechanicals finding out about the names from Mechanical and finding out that they always blame Mechanical, and now having this experience of going upstairs, seeing how they plot. I don't know that they're going to have like a full blown rebellion like they did in Silo 17, and they will want to go outside and then whatever. I think they're going to be more cautious about it because they still have Walker, who is incredibly smart and cautious, and now they have the informant working with the sheriff's department. So my hope is that this rebellion is a lot more cautious than the other ones, and that they want to take out the leadership, but carefully understand what's happening outside. The way that I see it is a lot more like they had planned, try to build some stronger suits, have the good tape, and go outside to explore, and then come back and regroup and talk about it. I really hope this happens. Let's see, because I just want to explore this world. Like, I want to know what is happening in the other silos. I want to know if there is an upper management. I want to know what the hell is going on in the city, like in the horizon. I want to know all of this. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And well, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, give me a like, drop a comment. Please tell me your theories. Like, I just want to, after I post this, I'm going to just go snoop around everyone else's videos and just see what everyone else is thinking, because I actually have heard really nice theories from this one video. What was her name? I don't remember. It's an account like mine that discusses a lot of TV shows and movies, I think. And she had this really cool theory about them being on the moon. I want to hear stuff like that. Like, leave me your delusional theories, please. And yeah, that's it. I'm I'm sorry it's a long video. And also, yeah, I stutter sometimes. It's not a big deal. Okay, bye.